everyone, I hope you all are doing well, and I'm super excited to share this with you all today. I have been getting a lot of messages from you all since I shared the experience that I had with the birthing from within community, the threshold, the experience that I had while people shared their birth stories, and the insight that I got that how birth stories actually affect us, our mindset, and how they literally shape our lives as individuals, because I think that's the first story that is associated with us as a person, and that story has a profound effect on us and our personality too. And that story starts from the moment that we are conceived and it ends the moment we are born, right? So that's the whole story, that's the climax. Our birth is actually the climax of the story. So I thought today that I will share with you the birth story of my daughter, because a lot of you have been asking for it. So here it goes, guys. It's going to be the most funny, hilarious and most amazing story you would have ever heard, because it's pretty different, I can promise you that, right? So as I said, I had no hopes of getting pregnant. When I got pregnant with my daughter, I had no hopes, I had no thought whatsoever that I will have this good news ever in my life. A lot of people were asking me, are you guys trying this and that? And I used to say, yeah, we are trying, and yes, it will happen. But most of you who have heard the story, you all know that how we have been trying for 5 years, and I suffered a miscarriage, and after that my husband's sperm mortality, the doctor said that he cannot be a father ever, and it strained our relationship as partners, and somehow eventually we got over it by simply accepting the fact that I may not be a mother ever and he may not be a father, and we might end up adopting a baby. And we were comfortably okay with the fact that we would end up adopting, and we were okay. So to celebrate the fact that we are not going to have a baby of our own, we simply thought, why not have a holiday? So I resigned from my office, because that was the career decision that I took at that time, to stay with my in-laws for a few weeks. And I thought that I'll take a break from my job, as it was pretty hectic on me, and I would simply spend some time with my family and reevaluate and assess about the adoption thing and everything. So I took a break, and my husband suggested, why not go out on a holiday? We went out on a holiday to Goa. And what do usually people do in Goa? We partied really hard, and so much so that I was literally puking in the washroom at 5 a.m. in the morning. And little did I know that I was not puking because of the alcohol or the fun. I was actually puking because there was something else going on inside me, but obviously I had no idea about it. So I simply went ahead and I checked what's the day, what's the time, and I realized that I had missed my periods for like 4 or 5 days. It was 5 days due, which is not the case with me ever. And then I reached Bangalore to my brother-in-law's place, and I told my mother-in-law, they were all there at that time, that maybe there's something going on with me, I need to see a doctor, maybe my thyroid is messing up with me, or my PCOD is troubling me again. So I simply went to the doctor, and she suggested to take a home pregnancy test. I blew it off, literally. I said that, you know what, that cannot be. So let it be. I'll see another doctor. I simply brushed her off, and I came back to Lucknow. And when I came back to Lucknow, things started to escalate. I was very tired, exhausted. I felt like puking, and I realized that no, this is not right. Something else is going on. I went to another doctor, and she again said that just test. I said okay, fine, I'll test. And to my amazement, I was pregnant. My husband was not in town. I told him over the phone, and he was happy like anything. And the first question that jumped into my brain was to ask my doctor, I was having drinks, and it might affect the baby and stuff. And my doctor said that, what has happened has already happened. There's no control over it. So let's just move on and make sure that this baby stays inside of you and is healthy and taken care of. So imagine for somebody who has struggled so long to get pregnant, had a miscarriage, getting the good news again, and then worrying about it every second that, I might lose the baby. What if this happens or that happens? And, what if we have our hopes high and then everything comes crashing down for us again. So, yep, I worked hard. My husband worked much more harder than me. He googled every book, Healthline, parents.com, birth story, everything, baby center, everything that you could find on, and he kept sending me articles and links and taking care of my medicines, the way I eat, the way I get up, the way I sit, and it was literally helicopter, parenting kind of thing. He was becoming a helicopter over my head all the time, and I simply sat him down and I told him that, you know what, ease down a little bit, things will fall into place. So practically for the first 3 months of my little girl's birth story, I had to live on fruits and fruits only. I couldn't bear the smell of roti, chapati and food, and I was only on banana, apple and coconut water. That's all I had for the first 3 months, and I'm not lying, believe me. I just had these 3 things for the first 3 months because these were the only things I could keep down. Later, because there was a nutritional deficiency in the first 3 months, and also I started bleeding in the first 3 months, so I had to go for these injections every week and take care of my body, and there was a lot of weakness, and there was because I was not physically prepared for it. So the thing is that when we think about pregnancy and getting pregnant, we don't really focus on getting our body nurtured enough, getting the strength up enough before we actually let in a new life accommodate a space inside us, because whatever the food, nurturing, everything that's going to this baby is actually going through you. So if you are not that strong, if you're weak, and if you're not that well nutritiously fed, then those kind of issues would also get to your baby as well. So yes, from the second trimester I started eating right. I started taking care of my diet, my charting my blood sugar, because I got gestational diabetes too. As I said, sometimes we are not physically prepared for pregnancy, and sometimes you're not mentally prepared for pregnancy. For me, I was not at all physically prepared for getting pregnant. I had no idea about all these things, and somehow when I got pregnant, I dived into all the literature, and I got a pregnancy wellness coach myself from US, and she guided me through diet and lifestyle changes, the exercises to have a normal delivery, but just the overview of it, not literally a childbirth education or something. If in case I had known all that, I would not end up on a C-section table. So yeah, that being said, second trimester was okay. It was more comfortable, like it is for most of the women. And by the time third trimester came, I was too exhausted, too tired to carry on. But yes, things were improving. My gestational diabetes was literally killing me, and I was very scared. What if I end up on a C-section table, which I didn't want, right? So what was the birth story that I had heard and I knew about is mostly from the movies, as I told you earlier. And I was literally scared about the fear of birth, the pain. Everybody, when they talk about childbirth, they only focus on the pain, right? Everybody's talking about how painful it is, how you get the stitches down there. And most of all in society, when I see other women talking about it, they say that, C-section, no, it must be easier and stuff like that. And I literally thought that C-section is the easy way out that people are taking these days, and maybe I don't want the easy way out. Believe me, I had no idea. It's going to be horrible, and it's going to be most difficult time of my life. I'll tell you why and how. So on 12th of November was the day that I was supposed to get admitted to be induced. Okay, so I had gestational diabetes, so my doctor said that we cannot wait more than 37 weeks because I had more LICA than needed. So the amniotic fluid was in a higher side, and that meant the baby would be bigger, and that meant it would be difficult to, for the baby to pass through the canal, the birth canal. So if I wanted to have a normal delivery, my only choice was to get induced at 37 weeks, and that was the safest option as per my doctor, which I totally respected. And at that point in time, I went to the doctor. I had my hospital bag and everything ready. So on 11th, what happens is in the afternoon around 3 p.m. we get a phone call that my husband's Taiji, or you can say a maternal aunt, is no more with us. Okay, so that is like somebody dying in the family, and I was supposed to give birth the next day. Okay, so that changed everything for every one of us. So first thing first, because I was pretty attached to her, she was really nice to me, and I really loved her, so I thought I would go visit her the last time. But then everybody suggested that for a pregnant lady, it's not suggested to visit, a place wherein somebody has died and see somebody's death. For a pregnant lady, it's not advisable. So I was arguing in my head that, is it just a custom, or is it, but then I ended up realizing that somebody dying, there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of pain, people are in pain, people are expressing their pain and grief. And for a baby or for a mother to be in such an environment wherein there's a lot of grief and pain going around, it's not a good environment for a baby or a mom to be, because whatever you feel, your baby feels exactly the same way, and it can reciprocate the same way. We underestimate the power of us creation and our womb most of the time. We think, it's just about having a baby and then delivering or pushing it out and that's it, it's done. No, it's not. Everything that you feel, you experience, the way the baby is attached to you has to do with the way your pregnancy has been, with the way you're taking care of yourself during your pregnancy and even after, right? So what I thought was that it's advisable, it's good that I do not visit her, and we decided that. Then my whole family went to see them, to see her for one last time. My brother-in-law was supposed to be here for my delivery on 12th, so he was on his way. He reached at 6 p.m. in the evening. One thing I probably missed to tell you all is that my husband is in Merchant Navy and he was not there for my daughter's birth because he was on duty. So it was 3 months after she was born that he was back. So he saw her for the first time when she was 3 months old, and my brother-in-law was there for the delivery to take me to the hospital and stuff. We arranged it that way. So he came back, he took leave, and he came to take me to the doctor. He reached here at 6 p.m. and now everybody was talking to Pandit Ji that, what if that, somebody has expired in the family, what if this baby, has a negative effect of that, and this is our family's first child, because I'm the eldest of the 3 brothers, I'm the eldest wife. So everybody was worried, what will happen to the baby, what if it has a negative karma and stuff like that. So obviously, Pandit Ji being Pandit Ji, he said that, what we can do is, if the baby is born before the pyre is lit, before she's cremated, if the baby is born before then the negativity is nullified, and then the baby would not have any kind of negative effect, because the sutak that runs, it actually starts, the 13-day period that somebody dies, that has to be observed, the period of mourning that we say, that starts once the pyre is lit, once the person is cremated. So now everybody wanted the baby out before the pyre is lit. Okay, imagine my condition. I was scared to hell that I was about to give birth. Any which ways I was scared, like in a normal circumstances, because I had no idea how to take care of the pain and manage myself. Now everybody is telling me that, Parul, you have to push this baby out before the pyre is lit, and I'm like, how is that possible? How are we going to do this? Everybody suggests, let's walk up to the hospital. The doctor is the best person to tell us. So we go to the hospital. We go to the hospital at 11:30 in night, and my doctor says that, if this is the situation, the best I can do is I can induce her right now and see if labor progresses till morning, and then we will see what happens. So she induced me, she gave me the vaginal tablets, and I took the tablets, and within an hour or so, I was on a roller coaster ride. So there were waves of contractions moving through my body. I hope that the childbirth class that I'm taking for people right now, I had even 5% information of that, and so I could have managed my contractions better, helped my body move along with the labor and stuff like that. But then obviously I had no idea, just like most of the women in India have no idea about all this. I had no idea and I was simply suffering. So there was a long labor till morning 7:30. And my mother-in-law, being an amazing person she was literally rubbing my back all along. And I was just listening to meditative songs and passing that time, that the pain and contractions, they were increasing with time. But then when 7:30 the doctor came, she said that I had dilated only 1 centimeter, so it was like negligible, no dilation. And she said that what we can do is that we can give her another round of induction, and if we do that, most probably by 3 or 4 in the afternoon the baby would be here. I was ready for it. Why was I ready for it? Was that I understood by reading all those scriptures and everything that I was reading, all the research papers, I understood one thing, that if in case you go for a normal delivery or a vaginal delivery, that I mostly prefer to call because I believe both are normal. If in case you go for a vaginal delivery, the best thing that you can have is a shorter period of recovery and a better bonding with your baby. And most importantly, the pain that people talk about so much is going to last only for a few hours, and then your body will be in a relaxation state and it will be recovering pretty fast, right? But with C-section, what I had heard and what I had seen was that with C-section, initially it's easier. The fear is not there, the pain is not there. But once the scar starts healing, once the medications are off, then your body feels the worst kind of pain and the recovery is much longer. And now you are a mom too, so it's not only your body, it's your little born baby as well. So taking care of both gets difficult when you've gone through a C-section. Now when I say this, the comparison between the both, that I'm talking about this, I want to tell you one thing, that ultimately it's always about choosing what's good for you and your body, and it's about accepting that this is going to be, this is what it is, and I accept it wholeheartedly. There shouldn't be any friction between your acceptance and what is going to happen to you. The biggest problem here is that we are not able to control. Obviously nobody can what's going to be the outcome, but we are not able to have our say in it, the way we want to convey it to people. So at that time, I wanted to tell people that I don't want to do this. I don't want to go for a C-section. I want to try for a vaginal delivery. I want to go through the whole experience. I don't want to go for a C-section. That's what I wanted to tell people, say out loud, and that's what I wanted to do. But then I wasn't able to. Why? Because I was scared. I had no idea how to, say things which I wanted to say. I had no idea how to make other people understand, how to explain myself. So with all that roller coaster, the next step that people took was that they simply talked at home and they checked that when exactly is the pyre going to be lit. So we were informed that it is at 10:30 that they are going for it. So everybody understood that there's no way that the baby will come here by 10:30, even if doctor increases the dosage or does anything. Though we literally asked her and she said she made funny faces in front of us, which was justified at that point in time, that you cannot really rush these things. So my family took the decision to go for a C-section, and I don't blame them, honestly guys. I do not blame them. I think they did what they thought is best for us at that time, and they obviously didn't know that it was not something that I didn't want, because I didn't speak up. So it's not their fault, obviously. So they took the best choice and they said, doctor, please go ahead for a C-section, because we want the baby before that time. So it was okay. So now that the C-section was in picture, everybody started finding Panditji again, that there's going to be a C-section, what if there is mool, what if the baby is manglik, and what is all that drama that goes on with the whole Panditji thing, right? So everybody is asking questions, by when the baby should be born, this and that, blah and blah and blah. But what's happening with me is, I'm looking at my mom, she's scared to hell. I'm looking at my mother-in-law, she's scared to hell even more, because she loves me like a daughter. My sister has no clue. She's just trying to be supportive for me, trying to see that I am happier in that situation. My brother-in-law is any which way is naive. He's just trying to see what kind of chocolate he could get me to eat. Though I told him I cannot eat, I have to go for a C-section. But he was trying to find me a good ice cream because he thought that really helps. Again, that's what he might have seen in a movie that a pregnant lady needs, right? So yeah, that's what was going around because nobody had any idea what was going on, and I being the eldest person in the family, in my family, so I thought that, you know what, let me take charge of the situation and let me just ease these people off. So I told everybody that, you know what, I know, I understand we have to go for a C-section, and I am ready for it. Let's just try and see if everything goes fine. My husband was on the call for the whole night while I was in pain. So I was making these decisions in pain, and he was on call, and at 7:30 in the morning he's suggesting that, you know what, try some other doctor or some other hospital, maybe they are able to get it done. So imagine my craziness that's going on in my head, that what the hell is this guy talking about? I'm in so much of pain. He wants me to sit in the car, go to another doctor, and that to 7:30 in the morning. Which doctor or which clinic would be available, we have no idea, and he wants me to take a risk in that situation. Again, I don't blame him. He was not there. He had no idea what's going on. But yeah, he was just trying to give his own opinion, and somehow it was making me crazy. Okay, so I simply shut him down. I said, you know what, whatever is going to happen, let it happen. Let's see how it goes. I just want my baby safe and sound in my arms. So did you just hear what I said? I just want my baby safe and sound in my arms. What we associate C-section with is baby being safe and sound in your arms. But the truth is that either way, baby is going to be safe and sound in your arms if you know all the options, if you understand all the options, and if you're not scared. If you are not scared beforehand only. If there is a lot of confidence in you as a woman, you're able to do it. And the only thing that can get you confidence is knowledge and information and taking care of yourself throughout your pregnancy. If you want to have a normal delivery, if you want to have a vaginal delivery, if you have that kind of story in your brain, or maybe if you want to have a C-section, a planned C-section, and you want things to move smoothly, you should always prepare beforehand, and the preparation starts even before you get pregnant. You have to take care of your body, you have to take care of your strength, and everything comes along with it, okay? So then what happens is I tell everybody bye-bye, I'm going to the C-section room, stuff like that. When I enter the room, I realize that, you know, before entering the room, they want me to change clothes and everything. And then and there, this lady tells me that, you know what, I need to put catheter into you. I said, why now? I mean, you could literally give me a spinal block or anesthesia, the local anesthesia, and then give the catheter in, because obviously that won't be painful. But right now I'm awake and I'm any which ways in pain. It'll be painful for me. So she says that, you know what, in that room there's a male technician also, so, you know, we would want you to give the catheter to you right now. And I was like, okay, fine, if that is what it is. Again, I had no idea I could ask for the male person to be out for a minute so that they can give me a catheter. I had no control over that choice, and because of that I suffered a lot. I suffered the pain of them giving the catheter to me then and there, and it was so damn painful, okay? Then they make me walk wearing that catheter to the OT, which was like 10-12 steps, but believe me, they were the most painful steps of my life. I am on the operation table. The doctor is very nice. The anesthesiologist is very nice. They're trying to make me comfortable. But when I look at that room, you know, I still remember it gave me goosebumps. The first thought that I had was that if I do not come alive out of this room, I want my baby to thrive. I wish somebody would be there to take care of my child, and I wish I come alive out of this. It was so scary. It was so damn scary. So as a suggestion, anybody who is going to deliver a baby anytime soon, do visit the OT room beforehand. It gives you that peace of mind that this is what is going to happen. You know, just request your hospital to have a look at it. Do not keep it for the last minute surprise, because believe me, that's not a surprise, that's a shock. If you're beforehand prepared mentally, and if you know that this might be the end road, then you are better prepared, and then you're not scared to like shit and hell, you know, you're okay with it, to accept it. So in that operation theater room, there was a whole light, and you know, I was crucified literally like this, and people were holding my hands, were tied. They put some cloth on my eye so that I don't. So there was no barrier thing. That like you see in YouTube videos, that there's a barrier and then you're on this side of the barrier and the operation is happening on that side. What they simply did was they simply put a cloth on my eye so that I cannot see anything but I can hear everything. It was, the feeling was like I am swimming underwater and I cannot say anything. I can only see, feel, I cannot breathe. There's no oxygen. That was the panic that I was having at that time. You know, maybe for others it's not that gruesome, but for me it was very difficult because I am a person who has always been in control, but I felt really very vulnerable there. You know, people were tied, my hands were tied, people were diving into my stomach. I could sense the pull, the tug, and they pushed my daughter out, and I could sense everything, I could feel everything, I could hear their conversation, which was like, you know, push here, push harder, pull it out, things like that, and it was making me crazy. And I just wanted it to end. My blood pressure was dropping, so my doctor said that, you know, we might need to shift her to ICU, her BP is dropping. Why was my blood pressure dropping? Because I was scared, I was feeling vulnerable. My husband was not there with me. People were waiting for me outside OT. They were not confident at all about it all. They were more scared than me because obviously it's a major abdominal surgery. When I was leaving for that room, I could see it in their eyes and on their faces that they are scared like hell and they just want me to be safe. But none of them were saying that you're going to be okay. Neither their eyes were saying it, neither they said it, because obviously they were scared. And here I was, but then there was this moment, and there was this moment like this. My husband was all the time on phone with my sister outside, just outside the OT. He was hearing it all. He was literally glued, his ears were glued here, that. And then my daughter cried for the first time. And when she cried, I only thing that I asked my doctor was that, is it a baby girl? I really wanted a baby girl, and she said, yes, Parul, it's a baby girl. And I was so happy. In that moment, I forgot everything, like everything. And I was like, okay, and the next thing that I said to my doctor was that, just stitch me up and leave me, na. It's out, just stitch me up and leave me. I just want to see my baby. Just remove this bandage off my eyes and let me hug my baby, let me feel my baby close to me. But they said that, you know, we need to check the baby, we need to clean the baby and stuff like that. So the doctor did the procedure and things were cleaned up. The doctor moved out. I was changed. I was brought upon a stretcher, and then I was, carried away to my room. Even then, I had no idea where my daughter is. You know, I kept asking people all the way that, where's my baby? Where's my baby? When can I see my baby? When can I see my baby? And then when I was in my room, I saw my brother-in-law holding her. And then I literally asked him that, bring her close to me, bring her close to me. I just want to see her. I just want to feel her. And then I saw her, and she was so beautiful. Like, I don't know, I don't have words to say how beautiful, how magical she was, and how amazing I felt in that moment. I felt that everything was worth it, every pain was worth it, every trouble was worth it now that I have her. But that feeling lasted only a few hours. Because after that, the reality struck, the pain struck, the medications wore off, the spinal block or the local anesthesia wore off, the pain, the shame of other people letting change your sanitary napkins. See, I'm being very brutal and very honest here. I don't want to make it a very flowery picture, because believe me, it's not flowery. It's not at all. It's flowery for a few moments, but then everything goes to hell when You have to literally open up yourself and let other people clean you all the time and move you, feed you. At least for 2 days this goes on, right? By the third day you're able to stand up. So this I was not able to feed my daughter because with C-section, since I'm a lactation counselor as well, and I became one only because I was not able to feed my daughter very well in the beginning. So with C-section the milk comes in a little late. But in our country, I have seen, I have been to 2-3 hospitals, and I have assisted a lot of doctors and maternity centers with lactation. What I have seen is the practice with C-section, they do not give, the baby is not given to the mom in the golden hour most of the time. And if in case the baby is not given to the mom in the golden hour and she doesn't feed in the first hour, then the feeding gets pretty difficult. And then there is a lot of wrong information. Nurses would tell you to wear a nipple shield if you have flat nipples. I had flat nipples. And inverted nipples also. I had inverted nipple, and which turned out to be a little flat by the end of the next week. And then by the third day, when the milk was not there, the nurse and the people around me would literally say that, you know what, the other lady in the other room, she has all the milk that she can feed to her child. Her breasts are literally overflowing, and you don't even have a drop of milk. How will you feed your baby? Till when will you feed the formula? Any which ways, I'm anxious that the milk is not coming. Then I am worried that what will happen. So with milk, it's very simple: demand and supply. Nobody is letting me keep my daughter on my breast. Everybody is feeding her formula again and again as per the doctor's instruction that every 2 hours she needs to be fed. And people are not even putting her on my breast and simply feeding her the formula. And obviously, when there's no demand, there's no supply. When I'm trying to initiate the supply, or maybe when I'm trying to make her feed, she's crying like hell because the nipple is not well formed and she's not able to latch. Then I was told to use a nipple shield, which I did, which made situation even worse because now she wanted to feel the plastic and not my breast. So eventually, after trying for almost a month, since the story at the beginning was literally ruptured and the bond was not created and the breastfeeding was not established, and obviously I had no support. The knowledge, the information that I have today, at that point in time, I had nothing. Mostly all the women around me, nobody had a C-section. Everybody has a normal vaginal delivery. So all they knew was they had to put the baby to the breast and the baby would start sucking and then baby was fed. As simple as that. Then you switch the sides and the baby is fed. But it's not that easy with a C-section. Sitting is difficult, keeping the baby on your lap is difficult, waiting for the baby to be fed is difficult. So there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of difficulties going around. So what happened eventually is that I again looked for the best alternatives, because what I believe is it's always about choosing the lesser evil, right? So formula for me is outright evil at this point in time because I'm a lactation counselor and I stand by every word that I just said. I would always prefer to give my babies and other babies, moms who are associated with me, breast milk, because if I don't believe in that and if I don't believe in the power of breast milk, then I won't be able to serve my clients well. Okay, so if I say I hate formula, I'm not trying to degrade you or disgrace you in any manner if you've fed formula. Even I have fed formula to my kids, but I believe in breast milk much more than formula, because if my belief is stronger, then I can serve my clientele better, right? So what I simply did was I looked for an alternative, and I found that I could actually exclusively pump for my child. So I simply started doing that. I started pumping and feeding my child. I had an oversupply problem, so I had to buy a deep fridge, like a proper ice cream truck kind of the big fridge that you see in the ice cream shops where they store the ice cream. I had to buy that to create a freezer stash for my baby. So she was well fed on my breast milk till 2 years of age. That is almost now. She just had stopped having my breast milk 2-3 months back. So that's what I did for my child. And what I would tell you is that you should always believe in yourself. So with this whole birth story, what I wanted to tell you or teach you or coach you was that I made a few mistakes. So the biggest mistake was not believing and trusting in my body, not believing and trusting in myself, my power to create, letting other people decide for me, you know. And one incident that I simply completely forgot or maybe skipped was that when I was in the on the third day, when my catheter was supposed to be out, there was a nurse in the room, and she was supposed to take the catheter out. And rather than deflating the balloon, she simply pulled it out of my vagina, which literally gave me good wounds down there. So I know the pain that you feel during vaginal delivery now, because I somehow had a severe trauma to my pelvic bone because of that, and I had a longer recovery time as well, and a UTI too post C-section because of the catheter. So I had to get that treated as well, which was very painful, as I said. So ignorance, misinformation, not being aware of my own rights, not being aware of my own body, not being aware of how I could have handled the pain in a better manner, the fear in a better manner, not having anybody who is strong enough to give me strength. You know, your family is there, your husband is there, your mother-in-law, your mother, but they are not your coach, they are not your mentor, they are not your guide, they are simply your family. You simply need a stronger power in your life. And now I realize why these Western countries have these classes to actually equip you for childbirth, because in those classes they don't only talk about the birth, how to give birth, and educating you for childbirth. They also teach you how to take care of a newborn and how to create a bond between you and your baby, so that you don't end up with postpartum depression. And these days postpartum depression has been a very big issue, and especially due to COVID, that now that we are cooped up in our houses. So my biggest takeaway for you from my own story is that stop suppressing your voice, stop suppressing your feelings, because that is what you are giving away to your child too, if you're suppressing your feelings and thoughts. Now if I have to tell this story to my daughter someday, which obviously I will, I'm not very proud and happy about it. But for you, what I want is to be proud and happy about your birth story, whether it's a C-section or a normal delivery, whatever it is. If it is chosen by you, if it is you are in conformity with it, you have understood, you realize the value, importance, the choices, why you made those certain choices, how you could have made it better, and how you could have communicated better with your service provider, your doctor, your medical team, your nurse, how you could have made it a little more inclusive for yourself, then what I think is my job would be well done. And most importantly, now I'm thinking about moving towards home births. Our country is absolutely ready to move towards home birth, towards a birth wherein you are comfortable in your own space and then you give birth. That's how we have been doing it from a very long time, right? Now we have moved to a culture wherein most of the time our consent is not even necessary. People decide for us. So why not take this charge and decide for ourselves what we want and how we can shape our own story. Things have been difficult, but what I can assure you is that I would love to guide you and shape you towards your journey to motherhood, to guide you, to help you better, to make you make better informed choices than me. So after my daughter's birth, I within next 5th month, she was 5 months old when I got to know that I'm pregnant with my son. So that was a shock and amazement, but my doctor said that you have endometriosis. So and that she told me on the operation table, that while she was operating me, that Parul, you have endometriosis, if you want to have another baby, plan it within a year or two. And I said okay. So that is the reason we were simply being careless, and we thought that it didn't happen for 5 years. What are the chances that it will happen just the first month that we are doing it? So to our amazement, the God blessed us with another baby, and that pregnancy birth story is pretty different than this one, and that one is where I was in super control, I was happy, and that's a very beautiful birth story. Someday I will share that with you as well. Let me know if you would like to hear that, and I will definitely draw comparisons. And those comparisons can actually be seen in the behavior of my children too. So when I talk about all this, I'm not only talking about the research and things that I'm reading about and learning about. I'm also talking about my real life kids and the example and the behavior and the patterns that I see in both of them. And I will discuss this more with you during my one-page birth story workshop. Magical Motherhood is what I call it. So I'm thinking about, I'm planning a workshop in the month of January, around 5th or 6th of January, for all the pregnant ladies, those who would like to stay in control and those who would like to have a healthy, happy pregnancy and create a beautiful birth story. And if you would like to know more, definitely go ahead and message me, DM me, or maybe put in a comment here and I would reach out to you. My team would reach out to you. This way we can actually create a safe space, especially in our country, to talk about birth and to talk about women empowerment, because I heard it somewhere and I believe it truly to my heart that giving birth is not about just bringing a life into this world. It's about a woman's power of creativity, her power of giving birth, her power of her own empowerment and emancipation, and a new birth that she herself has when she gives birth. So what kind of mother would you like to be? What kind of future would you like your child to have? What kind of traits would you like your child to have? Would you like to have a stronger bonding with your baby even while he's there in your womb? Would you like to literally shape up your child the way you want from your womb itself? If the answer to any of these questions is a yes, do DM me and let me know. I would go ahead and share with you my whole secret that I have discovered in a while, and I would definitely go ahead and share and disclose it to you in my 5-day workshop, where I talk about your baby's brain development throughout, your pregnancy nutrition and care, your attachment with your baby, clearing your emotional fears and preparing you for the best childbirth story ever. Okay, so DM me and ping me and let's see if I can help you out. Okay, take care of yourselves, mommies to be, and it was real pleasure talking to you all today and sharing my story with you. I hope you did get something out of it, and if at all you like this story, if at all you would love to hear more from me, please like and subscribe. I would love to be there as a friend and a guide and a mentor. That's my life's mission, guys. Take care. Bye bye.